Hello, and welcome to another day of English 2. I'm your online teacher, Miss Abear. We have been reading Dr. Martin Luther King's letter from Birmingham Jail. We have been analyzing the word choices. We've been analyzing punctuation, parallel structure, semicolons, all of those things, and the rhetorical devices that he uses throughout this letter. And we're going to get to a point where we're going to be looking at those rhetorical choices and those word choices and analyzing their impact on his purpose. And so all of this for a culminating end of the unit task where we will be analyzing his letter for a specific purpose. Okay, so the last time that we met together, we read a poem and analyzed it, and we analyzed the common themes that the poet had with Dr. King's letter. And that common theme that we were looking at was freedom. And so, or topic, that's not a theme. Remember, a theme and a topic are two very different things. A theme is a whole statement. It's a complete sentence, where a topic is a one-word piece. Remember that, that's important. So, and I misspoke and I apologize for that. But we are going to be looking at Dr. King's letter today, paragraphs 26 through 33. Let me remind you about what our end of the unit task will be. You're going to rely on your reading and analysis that we've been doing throughout this unit from Letter from Birmingham Jail to write a well-developed response. And when we say well-developed, we mean multi-paragraph, good essay, answering the prompt. Analyze how King develops and refines his claims to advance his purpose. And so when we get to the end of the unit, and that's going to be lesson 20 in this series, you are going to be writing that essay. You have all of these notes that you've been putting together during this unit. Every time that we meet, you're going through and you're adding to that information. Now, I want you to know you are only going to have one day to write this essay. Keep that in mind. And the reason I'm telling you to keep that in mind is because you are going to, for your end of the year test for English 2, you're going to be given only a couple of hours to write a whole essay. The same way we're preparing you for that state assessment, for that writing task at the end of your English 2 test. So know that that's coming, and that's why we're limiting your time. In your other essays that you've written throughout the year, you have had time to prepare that essay. You've done a lot of peer revisions. You've done some self-revisions. You've done all of those things. At this point in the school year, you should be prepared to write your essay in one sitting. So what should you be doing now in preparation for that? That's right. All of the things, all of the tools that you've been given, the delineation tool, the central ideas tracking tool, and the rhetorical impact tool, tracking tool. So you're going to be using all of those quick writes, all of those notes, all of the answers to the questions for each section of this letter. So make sure that you've got your binder, make sure that you're keeping up with all of these things. And on the days where you don't have as much homework or you get through quicker, then you can go back, start going back through your notes and marking those places where you know you're going to use evidence for your essay at the end. So keep that in mind. Let's look at today's agenda. We are going over that agenda now. You're going to be accountable to a partner for your homework. We will go back to Dr. King's masterful reading of his letter. We will do a jigsaw reading and discussion. Again, you'll do a quick write along with your closing and that homework assignment. You can also see on your screen the standards that we will be looking at today, along with the text, Letter from Birmingham Jail, paragraphs 26 through 33. Now, we're going to go over your homework. I want you with a partner to share and discuss the vocabulary words you identified and defined from paragraphs 26 to 33. Great job. Now we're going to move forward. You know, we don't go over vocabulary because that's going to be independent to each one of you. Each one of you is going to have a different set of vocabulary words that you identify that aren't going to match everybody. So if I try to go over everybody's words, we'll never get through the end of this lesson. So let's move forward and listen to paragraphs 26 through 33 of Dr. King's letter from Birmingham Jail. Before we go to the letter from Birmingham Jail, to the masterful reading, I want you to make sure you pull your copy out. We're going to go back to the note on the first page, and that note says, text in red does not appear in the YouTube Masterful Reading, and paragraphs without paragraph numbers do not appear in the curriculum. So there's still things that he's going to read that aren't part of this curriculum. So there are entire paragraphs in this section from paragraphs 26 through 33. So you will notice lots of different thoughts and processes here. Please make note of this as you're listening to the masterful reading. Anything in red, you should pause and read that out loud before you move forward to the next section. This might take you a little bit of time. This section begins at 37:58 and goes through 43:58. So make sure that you have your copy in front of you, that you're ready to annotate, you're taking notes, and you've made notations in the text. Print it exactly the way it is in that first lesson so that you have the text matches what my instruction is, and that there aren't any questions as far as what you're doing with this text. So keep all that in mind, and now we're going to pause and let you listen to paragraphs 26 through 33. Fantastic job. I love how different people in the room read the pieces that Dr. King did not recite himself. Great job with that. I love the collaboration that's happening, and I want to thank you for that. So let's keep going, and with a partner, I want you to reread paragraph 26 and answer the questions on your board. Great job. Now let's go over some of these answers. I'm going to allow you as a whole class to read and discuss the answers that are on the board, as well as the responses that you came up with, and we're going to answer 3 of those, and then I will go over a 4th one with you as a whole class. Great job. Now let's look at the next question, and I'm going to read these responses because I think this is a really important question that you need some specific information about. So follow along with me. What differences do you notice between King's discussion of white moderates in paragraph 19 and his introduction of his disappointment with the church in paragraph 26? So there's lots of comparisons between white moderates and the church as a whole. Okay, so in paragraph 19, King is strongly critical of white moderates. He states that he has been gravely disappointed and suggests that the white moderate who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, is more of a stumbling block in the stride towards freedom than those who actively oppose civil rights. In paragraph 19, King also condemns white moderates as a group without making any exceptions. And then in paragraph 26, King refers to some notable exceptions of significant stands and gives examples such as the Reverend Stallings, who welcomed black worshipers into his church on a non-segregated basis, as well as the integration of Spring Hill College. King uses the pronoun you, addressing his audience directly when he speaks of these notable exceptions, saying each of you has taken significant stands. King also repeats the phrase, I commend, to emphasize his praise for those notable exceptions. And then by using the phrase, of course, King applies that it is an obvious truth that there are white church leaders who have taken a stand on civil rights. So you see the difference between paragraphs 19 and paragraphs 26 so in that comparison, so between the white moderate and these churches that have taken a stand. And so make sure that you've made note of all of those different ideas that were presented behind me. All right, there are 2 more questions that I want you to review as a class before we move on to the next step today. So again, I want you to go back to discussing these as a whole class. You can have a student group read the question with the response, or you can have each person discuss their response. So those questions are on the screen now. Fantastic. Now, with a partner, I want you to make sure that you get out your rhetorical impact tracking tool, and I want you to track the King's use of rhetoric in paragraph 26. Fantastic job. Now it is time to kind of shift and go into some jigsaw reading and discussion. Now let me pause and say, in the curriculum, the people who wrote the curriculum did not include a separate worksheet like we had at the beginning of the curriculum for this jigsaw reading and discussion. But y'all know Miss Abear, and I'm not going to leave you hanging like that. So I went ahead and added that in, so you have that in your lesson today in the YouTube description. With today's lesson, there should be worksheets attached where this jigsaw discussion can happen without me having to leave these questions up on the board. But I did type them up, so we can leave them on the board while you still have the questions directly in front of you, because I know how difficult it can be to keep reading all the questions on the board. So with that being said, I need you to form groups of 3, and each group will analyze and answer questions for one of the sections that you see. Make sure that you are also completing the rhetorical impact tracking tool for your assigned section. So go ahead and get in groups of 3. Your teacher's going to hand out the different sections that you're going to be working on. You're going to have all 3 of those pieces of paper, because you know when we do a jigsaw, we've got to come back together, and so you'll have the answers to the other 2 sections, right? That's how it works. All right, so I'm going to leave you with the questions and with your tracking tools and all of that, and we're going to pause here so that you can complete your jigsaw. Fantastic job. Now here's where the fun part happens, okay? Each person in a group will need to find 2 other people to form a new group with, but each person in the new group should have 1 person that has analyzed each section. You're going to discuss your section, and then everybody in your group will have an opportunity to discuss theirs, and you're going to keep up with all of that information. And again, make sure you are also completing the rhetorical impact tracking tool. Fantastic job. Okay. Now, that was a lot, but wasn't it fun? I love the jigsaw time because it allows you an opportunity to only have to analyze 1 paragraph, but then you get the benefit of having someone else who has analyzed the other 2 sections, and then having that discussion really helps amplify your absorbance of the information that's been presented. I love those, and I hope you do as much as I do. So we're going to stay with the group that you are with, and I want you to reread paragraph 33. And with paragraph 33, you're going to answer the questions that are on the board behind me. Fantastic job. Again, I'm going to put my answers to these questions on the board, and I want some volunteer groups to read and discuss one question. Each group, or choose a group to answer and discuss one of those questions. I loved the energy in the room during that. That was so fun. All right, now everybody needs to go back to your individual desk, and it is time for your quick write for the day. So this is anytime we do the quick write, it is independent work. So I want you to answer the question, how does King unfold his analysis of the church in paragraphs 26 through 33? Provide 3 or more examples from the text to support your response. Great job. Now, you have read paragraphs 26 through 33 3 times now, I think. You're going to read it again. And that's okay, because that's going to deepen your understanding of this section. This is a really important section, guys, and I need you to see the importance. Now, if you need another Central Ideas tracking tool, get one of those from your teacher before you leave today. So, tonight, you are going to reread paragraphs 26 through 33, annotate for Central Ideas using the annotation code CI. Now, when I said you can get that Central Ideas tracking tool from your teacher, if you so desire to get, further along, you will be working with some partners next time we meet so that you can fill out that Central Ideas tracking tool together, but it will save you some time if you've already A, annotated the text, and B, you've already filled out most of that Central Ideas tracking tool yourself so that you can have an effective discussion when you come back next time. So until then, happy learning.